And so I will start off here. Welcome. This is the Parks Advisory Committee for the Granada Community Services District on Monday, January 31st, 2022. I'm calling the meeting to order. And first off, if the PAC members would go ahead and introduce themselves, just their name.
I'm Rick.
I'm Patrick Tierney.
Susanna Pollard.
Oh, wow. We're good at this.
Fran Pollard.
Let's try that again. Rick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Rick.
All right. Susanna, go ahead.
Susanna Cantrell.
Fran.
Fran Pollard.
Michelle.
Michelle Dragony.
All right. And we have a new member that'll be joining us here today. We're going to introduce him in just a minute. All right. The first part of every meeting is open for general public participation. These are for comments that are not on the agenda. The limit is 3 minutes per person. There's no discussion or action taken on any of these items. So does someone want to bring up anything that is not on the agenda?
I do.
Okay, Fran.
Okay, I have 3 different issues that are not on the agenda, and they're not exactly part of Granada district, but they are park issues. So I want to throw them out to the community and encourage community to keep up the pressure on the county to continue cutting the eucalyptus in the forests and also the medians, because there's been discussion now about why are we cutting in the medians? Well, if there's a fire and the winds are supposed to come back again tonight, I understand, you know, if there's a heavy wind, the fire can spread from tree to tree, whether it's in the forest or the medians or back and forth, one from the other. And those trees in the medians are closest to the homes, and they have trees all around their homes. I see them all around my neighborhood. People have trees, you know, touching their roofs, old wooden houses. It's scary. People need to start cutting and trimming their own trees while the county is not, is waiving the fee. That's number one. I just think it's so important. We have to talk about it. Number 2, the GCSD, since they've gone ahead and partnership with the county on the pump track, I'd like to encourage them to request a partnership with the county on our little tot lot and playground area, our community park. Every city has their park, so I don't think others are using our park, but we should have a right to have some influence in what they do in that park. And lately, the rangers have just decided to do things. They cut things, they change, they put in that chain link fence without any notification to us, and took out the nice little rural fence or country style wooden fence that was in. So, you know, these things can be upsetting to the neighborhood. And I just want to encourage that we have some say in the matter. And I think GCSD should do that. And also encourage a dog park. I had already spoken to Nicholas about maybe Murata Surf becoming the dog park once the pump track comes in, because that meadow is where the dog park, or people use it as a dog park now, and it's going to be in conflict with the pump track. So they're going to need another place, and that won't require any development or anything else. Just let the dogs roam around. This is for elderly people and disabled that can't climb the hills, won't hike. They just want to stand or sit. They can bring their own chairs, or maybe we should put in a couple of benches And they just want to be able to throw the ball and let the dogs run around and come back. So I think a dog park is very much needed. Besides all the, this talk now, pretty soon they're going to open up the Quarry Park for off-leash dogs, and they'll be running all over the place. So anyway, those are my 3 points. I hope some of you PAC members can agree with that and encourage it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Lyle is with us. I saw a moment ago. Lyle, do you want to introduce yourself? He was on just a moment ago. He must have dropped off. He'll be back, hopefully. Okay. So any other persons want to bring up any comments about items that are not on the agenda? I do not see anything at this point. Okay. Let's go ahead and start with the agenda item number 2, which is to welcome a new PAC member, Ethan Raynor. Welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and current job?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ethan Raynor. I've been living in Granada for a couple of years now. I currently work for California State Parks in the Resources Department. We do a lot of amazing restoration work up and down the California coast, in the San Mateo Coast sector. I work a lot with volunteer groups and doing native habitat restoration, other resources work. It's been really excellent. I enjoyed a lot. I'm a big native plant person. Love our local community, all the access to native habitats and things. My partner and I live here in Granada. I've been very fortunate to live here, very close to Quarry Park. That's a place that's close to both of our hearts for hiking and running and things like that. I've been living on the coastside for a little while. I went to school at UC Santa Cruz, lived there on campus and in the city for a while. So really great to stay in this area. But yeah, so I'm excited to be part of this advisory committee and develop more recreational opportunities for our local community. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or chat more, but I think that's it on me for now. So thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Lyle, you're tuned in now. Do you want to introduce yourself as a PAC member? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I was having some technical issues with my computer and had to switch to my phone. What was the question, Pat?
Just go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm Lyle Caulfield. I'm a local resident, interested in helping out you guys with the PAC committee. I've been able to attend one other meeting, and I'm a restaurant professional, so have a little trouble getting to the evening meetings with. At any rate, you've all met me before, except for Ethan, I think. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Lyle. So everybody's been introduced, and that's good. The third item on the agenda is the election of the PAC chair and co-chair.
Excuse me, Pat, are you going to approve the minutes? Have you pushed that to the end?
We do need to do that. Yes, thank you for the reminder.
That was number 1.
Yes, it was number 1. So are there any changes that are needed for the minutes that were submitted to all the PAC members from the last meeting?
Yes, I had one change where it said Pollard approved or suggested dog, or asked if the dog walk was possible with the golf disc, if they try to put the golf disc in Murata Surf East. And it was not walking, it was a dog park. That's what I had suggested. So I just want to change walking dogs or whatever it said to dog park in Murata Surf.
Got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other changes needed in the minutes from our November 3rd meeting? I hear none. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes with the one change from dog walking to dog park?
I'll move.
Fran, do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, Lyle, a second. We're going to call a vote. All in favor, say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed? Say no. Passes unanimously. Okay, good. We can move on then to the election of the PAC chair and co-chair. The PAC chair is the person, I'm in that role at the moment. Rick is the co-chair. And they prepare the meeting agenda and work closely with the board members, including Nancy Marsh, who's here tonight. Appreciate that, Nancy. And so every year we need to elect a chair. So the first part of that is to see if anyone is willing to nominate themselves, or is someone willing to nominate another person on the PAC to be chair?
I'll do it, or I'll nominate myself.
Okay, great. Rick has volunteered.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? I like my discussion would be I support Rick.
I knew you'd like that.
Same.
You're about to get nominated for co-chair, so hold on to your seat.
Yeah, I figure that.
No, can I make a suggestion? I'd like Pat to continue as chair.
I'm not.
Any second for that one?
I'm not interested in being chair. It's time for some new energy.
Really?
Okay, so we have one person, Rick Baker, who is volunteered to be nominated. So let's go ahead and hold the election, unless there's someone else who wants to step up. Seeing none. All in favor of Rick Baker being chair for the next year, raise your hand.
It's Barker, by the way.
Parker, excuse me, Rick.
You can go by Baker.
Parker.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, we have a new PAC chair. Congratulations. Do you want to take the rest of this meeting, or should I continue?
Let me pull up the agenda here and see if I can do that for you. Keep going.
And we need to have a co-chair election.
Yeah. Co-chair election. I agree. And I nominate you, Pat.
I'll second that.
I will accept that.
There you go. Since you nominated me for co-chair last time, I'm just going to nominate you.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. Get a second on that?
I did.
Fran, you
I
seconded?
seconded.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Any other discussion? Anyone else? Okay, hearing no other options. All in favor of having myself be co-chair, raise your hand. Okay, passes unanimously. All right, congratulations, Rick.
Yeah, thanks. I guess some of the disc golf people are trying to get in, but they can't.
Yeah.
To the meeting tonight, so they're struggling with that. Did we address that, Delia? I know, I don't know how to address that.
If I can get there, if they can email me, I can forward them the link. Otherwise, it's not a, excuse me, a copyable link, and that's the problem.
Well, I think it's just the, they need the
I can't just send it.
the meeting number and the passcode.
Yeah, I can give that to them if they can email me, and I'll let them in. Yeah, can they?
I had emailed to Jim Kelly and was hoping that he would be passing it on. But let me.
Yeah, it can be forwarded, but other than that, yeah, sorry about that.
That's fine.
If Delia, if you have a couple of the emails, Pat, email as many of them as you can with the correct code. It's still got some time before they have to be on.
Where do you want me to send them, Michelle?
So you have about 4 or 5, maybe 6 emails of the disc golfers.
I don't have their emails. That's the problem. I don't have it.
It will take me a second, Rick, if you want to.
That's fine. Yeah,
find the email.
The disc golf is action item number 8. So we're
Okay.
on action item number 4.
Yeah.
Agenda item number 4. Update GCSD recreation staffing situation, Burnham Park and Community Center.
I think that's me, an update from the board.
Yep.
Okay. For the new folks, I'm Nancy Marsh, and I think official now PAC liaison from the board.
Yay.
So I'll try to come for every meeting, and if there's something you want to shoot up to me, I can be we did an official, we've always sort of done it unofficially, but now we have an official link for PAC to the board. Regarding staffing, I had a good long talk with Chuck in December about rec coordinator, whether we could combine that with a position that would help with the development of the park and community center. We walked around a lot of pros and cons of different approaches. Where we came down is that, well, I'll get to the park and community center, but for recreation, given the types of recreation that we have tried that have been successful, and assuming, but we'll get to it later in the meeting, I think, agenda item number 10, that the activities this year would be of a similar nature, the walks, the movies, the BORP, and so on, that there really isn't enough recreation to hire a rec coordinator. The one that could be more complex is Michelle's music event. Michelle and I have talked about potentially contracting with an event coordinator specifically for that event to help with that. So we still are of a mind that we're not going to look to hire an employee rec coordinator until we have venues where we can do rec programming and there's more robust work for them to do. But Chuck did commit that he will work with Delia to manage the admin support from our existing staff. There are just, similar with PAC, there are times when there is more and less work to do. The same happens with the other side of our community district. In June, it's very busy because it's budgeting time for the staff. So if we can avoid their busy times, we think we can cover supporting the recreation activities with the existing staff, as we have done in the last couple of years. And if we need some overflow, I know how to do this stuff, and I'm happy to be a little bit of backup to help, particularly with things like communications, which Michelle gave me some great ideas about earlier today. So that's the situation on staffing. We're going to go with Delia and Nora as Chuck and Delia work out, and we'll see what the program looks like for this year, and we will work as we need to make sure it's staffed, but we won't be hiring a rec coordinator as of this time. And we think we need to get closer to having a park to plan things in that vendors can use, and then we'll be doing more contracting with vendors, and then we think we'll need a rec coordinator. Any questions on that?
I do have one, Nancy. I'm sure we are planning to have a recreation program again. Who is on tap for putting together the brochure, updating the website, all those kinds of things?
We Director Dye wants to do a newsletter because we do have want to do a fairly robust update on what's going on with the park, with the future community center, with recreation. So we will put together a newsletter that will be inclusive of the recreation program, and I will help you with that, particularly anything like that with communications. I'm willing to help with. So we'll make sure that's covered.
Okay.
Excellent.
I would like everybody who's volunteering, oh, sorry, Rick. I'd like everybody who's volunteering to keep track of their hours so that we have the economy of what's going on here. Thanks.
Fair enough.
Sorry, Rick.
No, that's fine. So the organization and assignments for PAC 2022.
Oh, wait.
I know.
I'm going to give you a quick update on the park and community center too.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
The park is going glacially slow. We do now have a civil engineer on board, and I think it's fair to say, I think Chuck has said, with the lawsuit and with the BOD upsets at Sam taking a lot of his time, there were things that were not getting a lot of his attention. Now with those, thankfully, getting resolved, he now is convening a monthly meeting of himself and K&K and the civil engineer to make faster progress on getting through the permitting process for the park, which frankly will probably take the rest of this year. We have the civil engineer on board. They now have the topo maps they need. They need to do hydrology. There's a wonderful list. If you look in the GCSD agenda packs, I think from October and November, the civil engineer's RFQ is really informative on what we have to do to get ready to permit the park. We're also trying to permit as much as possible in this first process, including, for example, the use of the preschool property and any combining of properties that we need to do. So it's a complicated process. We will be going out looking for a CEQA consultant soon to start the CEQA process. So there is stuff going on. It's just not stuff that's going to be visible and not stuff where we need to be making decisions and choices yet at this point. When we get farther along, and I don't know if it's even going to be before the end of this year, as we've said, there will come time when we need to make decisions about what type of playground equipment or other kinds of amenities to go in the park that don't have to be detailed in the permits. But when we get to those kinds of things that people can see and use, we'll be looking for PAC to be more on point and more involved in that. The community center, as you probably know, the preschool has a lease through the end of August 2023. We gave them a 2-year lease because we figured it would take us that long to get through a planning and permitting process for the renovations we would need to do. I meant to mention on the park, the ad hoc committee for the board is Barbara Dye and Matthew Clark. So they will be the liaisons when we are looking for input from PAC on the park. For the community center, it's Barbara Dye and myself. We want to push this a little faster than we've pushed the park so that when we get to the end of the preschool's lease, we are ready to move on renovations for the community center. So we generated from a number of recommendations, a list of potential architects. The process will be to first engage the architects and have them start developing plans and getting us through all of that permitting process so we're ready at the end of that lease. We sent an invitation just to check interest to 3 individual local architects and 4 firms. We've heard back from one of the individual architects and 2 of the firms. Those 2 firms have experience developing multiple, each of them has done multiple community centers, libraries, and other public buildings from very small to very large. 2 of them have asked for walkthroughs. We did one walkthrough with one of the firms whose architects happen to live locally here on the coast last Tuesday, and we have another walkthrough on Monday. Candace is coordinating with us, the preschool owner, to do those late in the day after the kids are done. I'm hoping to hear from one more of the firms that's been recommended because they have built community centers. But we have at least 3 entities interested. Our plan is to do an RFQ. If I get all the work I want to get done this week, it will be maybe by the end of next week. We'll be putting out an RFQ to get a formal applications from the interested parties, and with our intent to go to the board in March with a recommendation for an architect. Once we do that, then we'll be in a position to gather more input from PAC. And one of the things that I'd like you to think about that we could do once we have an architect in place and are ready to do an initial meeting on programming, how many rooms we want to do what. The architects had lots of questions that Barb and I couldn't answer. If you're interested, we could do a sounding board of PAC, just to make it a little bit easier to schedule and so on. We can always come to a PAC meeting. But if there are up to 3 people who would like to be a sounding board for a meeting early on with the architects, just send me a note. We don't have to decide it tonight, but if you're interested, send me a note, because I think we could put together a meeting with Barbara and I, a few members of the PAC, to go over the programming that we developed when we were looking at the fire station, and just make sure we get our wish list set early. Our going in thinking is that we will have them do 3 levels of building, from, they had words for that, kind of minimal to enhanced to ideal, size and shapes of buildings, and numbers of amenities, so that we've got a few choices to take to the community at some point, hopefully later this year. So that's where we are.
Question.
Yeah.
Does the purchase of this adjacent property change the possible layout of the proposed park at all?
It hasn't changed the layout, other than we had a bathroom planned for that far end of the park, that if we've got a public bathroom in the community center, we won't put that in. We may have the architects who design the community center also do the design for the bathroom, which is really the only structure on the park, so they look alike and look like they belong in the same space. The board, in a public part of its meeting, designated the general manager to have conversations about potentially acquiring a property that is on the other side of the community center, which could be
the highway side.
Toward, if you're facing the preschool, it's the property immediately to the right. It's a small piece of property. It's not the whole property between there and the house, but it's a small piece of property.
Does the property the community center is on, does that go all the way to the Caltrans easement?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 30,000 square feet. It's a good deep. It's one of the advantages it had over the fire station. So there's room for expansion. That would just give us more leeway for something like more parking, which is always desirable.
Pickleball courts,
Yeah, pickleball courts.
Yeah.
Well, they need it. Well, I'm trying to get one inside because of the wind, but
of course. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because Barbara's now laughing because I always say it.
I beat you to it.
We have a very active pickleball community in the district. So yeah, it's not going to change the layout of the park that's there, other than the bathroom and potentially making the bathroom, the restroom look like the community center in terms of design.
Got it. All right. Pat, did you have anything for the assignments for the 2022 for PAC this year? Action item 5. I know you did a survey. Still muted.
Are we on agenda item 5?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Yes, give me a moment here. I wanted, for background purposes, I created a short survey that was sent to the PAC members, and thank you all for responding to it. The idea behind it was to get a sense of what the PAC members felt like priorities should be for the PAC for 2022. And I purposely kept it to things that, well, I felt and a number of other people felt were doable. Some items in the short term, some items were, you know, it'd be wonderful. A pickleball court, tennis courts. Those involve substantial construction, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure that we have the space for that. The park, those two items were never in the park, Burnham Park design. So this is not, I also asked what other items the PAC should prioritize that the individual member felt was important. This is in no way, you know, a quantitative survey, but just to get a rough sense of what the PAC members are thinking. So I'm just going to very, very quickly summarize it. The first question was, how important is it for the district to have a summer events program, recreation program, such as family music, no, that's not right, family movie night, and so forth. All the respondents were at least thought it was moderately important to extremely important. So that was the one item that had the most support. The second item, how important is it for their GCSD to support building a new disc golf course? And again, we had one person slightly important, two people slightly important, I'm reading it here, one not at all important, and one extremely important, one not at all important, and one extremely important. So it's a real mix. We can talk about the disc golf course when that's an agenda item, but was the survey results. Question 3, how important is the district to host an acoustic music festival at Burnham Park? One was slightly important, one was not at all important, one was moderately important, one was slightly important, two were extremely important. So that, again, had a mix among PAC members. The fourth one,
excuse me, can we get a copy of that? Can we see it?
I haven't printed anything. I haven't put anything together. I can do that. You can't
show it tonight?
Let me see if I can share the screen. Let's see here.
Did everyone take the survey?
Yes.
Okay.
So can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So
thank you.
Yes. Good suggestion. So there's Q1 about summer events and the results you see there. Mine is not there, so I put extremely important. The second one was the disc golf course, slightly, not at all, extremely, and mine was extremely. Number 3, how important is it for the district to host an acoustic music festival? Slightly, not at all, moderately, slightly, extremely, and mine was extremely as well. Let's see, and the last one, Q4, how important to have the district host a grand opening event for the pump track. And we had slightly, moderately, not at all, moderately, and extremely. So quite a mix on the board, on the committee, I should say. It's too long to show all these at this point, but there were open-ended questions, any suggestions or comments for the PAC. Number 8 was interesting. Other things that that the PAC should try to work with the district on. And again, some people had quite extensive comments, and so I will share those with the committee after the meeting. But that gives you a sense of what people are thinking on the PAC, because we've got to start to narrow things down, in my opinion, to just a few items and that we can support and that are feasible in the short term. We don't need any more long-term projects, in my opinion. We need short-term achievable results. So that gives you a sense.
Thank you.
Pat, can I say something?
Sure.
Rick, I guess I have to ask now. That's when, after I turned mine in, is when I realized that's where I should have put those 3 requests that I made at the beginning of the meeting. It wasn't until I had already done it. And then I thought, wow, why didn't I think of those at that time? But that was it. So I should add them to that. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. All right, getting the hang of this. All right, so action item 6. The event for opening for Quarry Park bicycle pump track.
Rick, can I get some background on that?
The bicycle pump track?
Yes.
There was a partnership. The community's been trying to get a bicycle pump track put in on the coast side for quite some time. It was a #1 asked for item for GCSD for many years from the community. It was one of the most popular items asked for at the Quarry Park Master Plan meeting for a long time. Finally, it came to Quarry Park. County is willing to install one in their property, and GCSD stepped up and helped fund the construction. So GCSD's connections there has been very helpful and influential there in getting this pump track, from planning to design to implemented. So it's a big accomplishment. One of the only things I think, I know GCSD has been involved in a lot of community efforts and a lot of other smaller classes and things of this nature, but this is going to be, I think, the first big thing we've applied funds for the community, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, as far as organizing a grand opening, that'd be great. I know I'm personally working on the other side of this with Coastside Mountain Bikers, with county parks. So we will definitely be there for that. So I can help, if GCSD wants to plan something, that'd be awesome. I can work with GCSD on that. If we want to spin off a subcommittee to plan this, I think that might be a good idea. I'm not sure exactly when it'll be. I know Nicholas, the timeline hasn't shifted. I have that update somewhere posted on my website. But it'll be this summer if we don't have a extremely wet winter. So is anybody else interested in or have any ideas about some sort of event there?
Rick, you might just say to the bigger audience here, what is a pump track?
Oh, okay, we'll go all the way back. Pump track is, it is a series of berms, mounds, and piles of dirt, basically. But we've also added, county parks wanted to do more of not just a pump track, so there'll be other sections within there. There'll be a skills course with some balance beams and a little bit of rocks and some other things. So really this has turned into no more than just a pump track. There's a beginner course and a intermediate course, and then there's a skills course around the perimeter on the plans. But a pump track in design is something that you wouldn't have to pedal on. You use motion by pumping the bicycle up and down the front and the back sides of mounds. So that's where the name pump comes from.
And Rick, is that, sure. I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it all earthen or is there any?
There's no paved or asphalt in this construction, in this plan at this time. There will be some rocks and there will be some wood. If you go to the county parks website, they have the detailed plans posted there.
Yeah, and they have plans for mitigating erosion and keeping it from wearing down.
Yeah, so that's all. Everything so far, it's all been approved. It's all been permitted, and the funds have all been obtained. So it's just a matter. Right now, they are currently. It is out for bid for the contractors right now. So.
And the agenda item was a special grand opening event.
Yes.
And so, you know, a little bit of background there is it hasn't been talked about in previous meetings, but several people thought this would be an appropriate thing since the PAC has had such an integral relationship with this pump track. That the PAC might also want to get involved in it.
Yeah.
And we can, Rick, I don't know, what's the scale? What are you thinking?
I will have to actually work with the county on this to see what they'll allow. You know, if we can have some sort of organized event, possibly have some of the local riders and maybe some of the local coaches come out, and I know I can get them to volunteer their time to actually teach the kids on how to ride it and demonstrate.
A pump track orientation for
an orientation and you know maybe even like a demo, so people can get a sense of what can be done by semi-professionals, and then also some of the coaches could actually show some of the youngsters and even other people that are unfamiliar some tips and tricks. So we could probably get 3 or 4 very professional coaches and probably semi-pro riders for an event. Maybe even have not a competition, but just a jam. They call it like a jam. Basically, it's when kids just get together and ride. Something of that event. I mean, if we could have, you know, I mean, food. I don't know if food or music or any of that's on the table, but that would always also make for a fun event. We would have to talk to county parks to see what they would allow. What are your guys' feelings as far as what you would like to see done?
I think if we're committed, we should promote it.
Yes. It's going to be, it is the first pump track north of Santa Cruz in the peninsula. So they're the closest one. There's one in San Francisco, a small one, and then there's one in the East Bay, and then there's a bunch in Santa Cruz. So this will be the first one on the peninsula. So for the first month or so, we might be seeing quite a you know, an attraction until it dies down. So we could see several groups of kids riding it. So it could be exciting.
One of the things I like that they do at the movie nights is to have those in county approved, have the local vendor pop-up tents with candy, which is really good, and different food sources. So maybe something like that too would be nice for the local businesses.
Yeah.
And Rick is without lights.
I didn't pay my power bill.
I guess you don't like my suggestion. Just one thought.
Evidently, I wasn't moving enough.
Rick, I think we should, instead of ribbon cutting, we should have a tire cutting.
Oh, look at that. It's a great idea. That should be good. So I'm jotting down these ideas. Any other that we'll have to send an email or have a conversation with county parks about what they would like to see. Is there anything specific you guys would like to see or not like to see? So far I have food, vendors, music. This is just no order of importance. And these are things I'm going to bring up and they're either going to say yay or nay to the county.
I like the idea of bringing in
pros,
cycling specific vendors like bike maintenance, one of the trucks and, service people, that area's service so that they can promote their wares and be a draw to the grand opening as well as just the pump track.
That's excellent. Yeah, we have a couple mobile service people and a couple coaches, and there's the local bike shops, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So we can reach out to them.
Turn it into a little bit of like a little fair.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
I'd like to remind everybody that was promoting this that it was for the community. So I hope it's not going to be open to the whole Bay Area all at once. We have very limited parking and space for all this. So I don't think it should be an opening that's a giant production.
Fair enough.
That's my opinion.
No, I understand. And obviously the parking situation has been a hot topic for you as someone that lives right across the street. As far as who's coming, I mean, it's a county park, so we can't tell people from within the county. We can't tell people they can't come. As far as how GCSD advertises it, it'd be advertised within the district.
Yeah.
I agree with Fran. I want to support her position that it shouldn't be promoted, at least try to promote it outside of the district. I know with the movie nights, working with San Mateo County Parks, they asked if we wanted help promoting the event. And in this case, I don't think we do. I think we can through Nextdoor and our networks on the coast side, we can get plenty of people there.
Yeah, that makes sense that GCSD would want to promote it locally. All right. So should we, I guess I can take lead on that and start communicating with the county as far as what's possible, and then I'll report back with what they approve and we can discuss it later.
Yep.
And hopefully I will have an update on the actual construction. Maybe they've chosen a vendor or a contractor by then. This agenda item number 7. Discussion on request for Flynn Creek Circus. Pat, you're gonna have to fill me in on this. Or who?
I will let Michelle.
Okay.
I'm gonna work with this.
So there was a connection that Flynn Circus made with the GCSD website for a request to put a circus on Burnham Strip. And I talked to Delia and basically it came in, Delia asked Chuck what to do. Chuck said, Barbara, what do you want to do? And they put it on the agenda. I think there is a possibility of if somebody wants to re-look at it, but it would have to be brought to public comment and somebody would have to bring it back to the board type of thing. Part of the problem was the perception that it would be pretty showy for the Burnham Strip, even though we do have a history of circuses like across the street at Keats where the motorhomes are going to be, the big park is going to be there. There were circuses there for decades. And then there were circuses in Half Moon Bay. And there were people, I mean, when I got here in '89, they were still had elephants in the circuses. But I think by early 90s, they got rid of the animals and they were people circuses. And there was a circus that always came to Half Moon Bay. I like motorcycles. And so had this great big ball and the motorcyclist would go inside the ball. So I like circuses for people. I like to do that kind of thing. And Flynn would have to advertise probably in a larger manner than just here. And so parking is an issue. And they also had a request for water. So I think we're just going to leave this alone for right now. I think it has a possibility, but somebody's going to have to look into it a little bit more detail and see how much water do they need and what do they need it for, how many seats they actually have in their tent. If you go to flynncircus.com, you can see there's a video. It's really cute. I'll put it in the chat after I finish chatting. And so I still think there's some potential. I mean, we're Parks and Recreation. If we're going to do movies that are recreation. We're going to do music that's recreation. Then circuses are recreation. And I think procedurally, this got kind of, because Chuck's been busy and he's got a lot of stuff on his plate. And it's like, just wanted to get this one off our plate. And it probably should have come to Parks and Recs so that we could have looked at it and spent some time on it. But I think in the future, and as Nancy and I talked this afternoon, that there'll be a little bit more sensitivity to giving us a chance to look into it, because we are the Parks and Recs Commission. And if we don't get to do our stuff, then we're not doing anything. So that's my report on the circus. If anybody has any questions, shoot them.
Rick, you're muted.
I usually just leave it unmuted and y'all get to listen to me sniffle, but for some reason I muted it. Now, the circus, would they be here? They're obviously a for-profit business and they would be sharing revenues, or would we would be subsidizing them? How is the structure of that financially? What's the community gain there?
They want to rent the land and we give something for people to do, recreation.
Right. Got that, Bart. Okay.
How long were they talking about, Michelle? How many days?
A weekend.
1 weekend.
When the request came to the board, we didn't have the additional information in your pack. It said rent for the summer. The additional information is it would be basically a week with shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But just in terms of process, when things come into the general website, they go to all the board members and Chuck and Delia. And I suspect Chuck heard from several board members. I know I was one with an initial view. So it went straight to the board to have a discussion, and the board voted not to rent the land for that purpose, mainly due to traffic, crowds, and all that we heard from community about use of Burnham and not attracting large crowds, people from outside the area, and concerns about traffic and parking. But I had a good talk with Michelle and take the point that input on things like this is one of the things that we value from PAC. So my commitment is that if we don't have to do something really quick, we can hold something like this just to get a view from PAC on whether, what your views are. I'd still like to know generally what your views are. And if it is quick, I can send something out to PAC to say, would you like to express a view before it goes to the board, just to make sure that we loop you in.
Right on.
Thank you.
All right. Does that close out the circus topic? So let's move on to agenda item 8, discussion of potential disc golf course. Were the individuals from the disc golf community successful in getting in? I don't see some of the usual suspects. But I know there was quite a bit of discussion. I know they've popped up at the MCC meetings and they've been pushing and trying to get the word out that how popular their sport is and how growing and how unifying and inclusive this sport is. And they have a great message, and the disc golf community is really well organized. And me speaking on my behalf, I think if they want to do this, they need to find a spot and then come to us. I mean, the pump track, I know we can use similar things, but GCSD always struggled with, we don't own any property that you can do this on. You need to find a spot and then we can help support. I know there was talk of us buying equipment and then loaning it out. I'm not sure how hot people were on that. On the buying portable equipment for people to use, that seemed a bit of a stretch. But I'm all for, if the disc golf community can find a location and talk to the landowner, I think GCSD should support this effort if we find that they find a suitable location. Yes, Pat.
Some background on this. At our last PAC meeting, we passed a motion to support disc golf and explore it further. So it's already been in the work plan.
Yep.
So with that, I took it upon myself to contact several of the disc golf members And I'm sorry they're not here tonight because they're adamant and very supportive. At the last board meeting, not the PAC meeting, at the last board meeting, it was suggested by several board members to form a disc golf subcommittee under the PAC. And the idea was that until we need to come up with alternatives, could be size, location, amount, it's all up in the air. But for the most part, people are talking about a 9-hole course. So I have contacted 4 of the speakers at the last board meeting on the disc golf subject. And 3 of them are interested in a disc golf subcommittee that reports to PAC, and then the PAC would ruminate on that and report their recommendations to the board. In terms of, that's one thing I would like to do tonight is if you would, if we could vote to see if someone is interested in being on a disc golf subcommittee that can meet and work out the details of alternatives. So when, where, how much, very specific. And I would be, I'm hoping that we can do that in 3 months or less. One site is, potential site is with the school district. And as Nancy knows, we have approached the school district, that is the district, our district has approached the school district 2 previous times about putting recreational elements in the surplus land that is known as the Sonora Strip, off to the north end of the district, off of Sonora Avenue. It is currently vacant and might make a very good 9-hole disc golf course. The other alternative land area that's been proposed is Marada Surf East. There are wetland issues there, but these are the details that need to be worked out. I've contacted the school district superintendent, and he emailed me back and said that he has liked 3 aspects about what I sent him. One, it's a short-term situation. The district wants to keep the option open, as we found out previous 2 times, to keep that option open to build teacher housing in that property. So they don't want anything permanent. That would have to be something that could be torn up quickly. And a disc golf course is excellent for that reason. The holes can be the baskets can be, they can be placed in the ground to where they won't get ripped off. They can be semi-permanent, but then they can be taken away quickly, and without the tees, the golf tees, could be gravel. So there's no concrete needed anywhere, asphalt anywhere in the proposed disc golf courses. So that's some background on it. And I hope that, and the superintendent was reasonably positive. This is the first time that in 5 years that we have had a potentially positive response from the school district. So I look at I'm going to stop here in a minute. I look at disc golf as low-hanging fruit. It's something that could be done quickly. It's relatively low cost. If we can find a location that is reasonable, this is something that the PAC could work on, just like the pump track, with the district's support. So I'll leave it there.
Excellent. Lyle?
Yeah, thank you. You have a bunch of people out there that are communicating with you that you say are super enthusiastic about the golf track that you would like to maybe put on the subcommittee. Do you have any idea if these folks are all members or are all members of our community here in El Granada? Or are they from Pacifica? Are they from down the coast? Are they over the peninsula?
One is a professional disc golf designer that lives in East Bay. Very fortunate to have someone like this. It's the equivalent of Jack Nicklaus golf course designer in that realm. So he usually charges massive amounts of money. He has said that he would volunteer his time because he thinks it's an important project. The other two people are from the district.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks.
Right on.
Yeah, we need the equivalent of a Rick Barker in this space for the disc golf. And I think that pro guy, you know, he's offered his time and he told a great story. I dropped a link into the video for this, and all the PAC people who weren't at the GCSD, just have a listen to it. Just put the phone in your pocket and listen to it. But you're going to hear some really amazing information. And in particular, as somebody who likes to build things like with volunteers, we spent $100,000 on a pump track that we could have built for $35,000 if we'd had a nonprofit could use the volunteers, blah, blah, blah. So I'd like to look at this disc golf also as a model for letting people be more involved with the process of the planning, the creation, and the editing of whatever they're building.
Yeah.
I think that's going to boil down to where we end up, or where the permission is and the liability that is entailed by that property owner. I would love to see community support, community volunteerism, and less money required. Pat, you said you were interested in seeing a subcommittee. Do you have, I know some of the numbers that I heard at the board meeting for the minimum acreage requirements. Does the property on the Sonora Strip meet those requirements for a 9-hole?
According to the informal discussions with those three people, including the professional designer, it would be a small course, but a 9-hole course would fit.
Right. And there's no permanent structures or any sort of drainage or anything required for this. So, I mean, it could go anywhere with open space and minimal vegetation removal. Usually you plan around, when they plan these courses, from what I understand, they plan them around the natural habitat, and there is minimal vegetation or alteration of the land.
Yeah, Murata Surf is actually not a good choice because it's open. And Jim Kelly, he's one of the people that live here. I used to coach soccer with him. He used to teach at Karama. Now he works for Parks and Recs over the hill somewhere. So he's a professional. And he said that it's actually pretty simple. And I think that we'll be able to do this without, too much time. And like Pat said, too much cost. I think it was, Nancy, didn't you say it was like $10,000 for all the equipment, something like that?
It was $1,000 to $1,500 per hole. So a 9-hole could be, $15,000, not that much for the, the good permanent. As Pat said, it's like putting in a fence post for the tees. It's permanent, but easy to remove. I think the surprising thing to me from the comment, actually, Jim Kelly said he does set up his temporary setup on the Sonora Strip for target practice. Surprising to me is they want trees. I think Leonard, the professional designer, said we like trees because we like to curve around them. So yes. They'd be looking for more of the tree side of the Murata Surf, I think, than the open side. Sorry.
Yeah, Pat.
I would be willing to chair the subcommittee, disc golf subcommittee.
Excellent. I think that's something I kind of have a feeling that, we supported this in our last meeting. We voted for it. I think the passionate cry of the community that couldn't get in tonight, we should let them know that we have heard them and we do support them, as according to our vote last PAC meeting. And I think we should go ahead and form a subcommittee. Now, would that be how many people from the PAC and how many people from the public?
You can only have 3 people from the PAC, because if you have a quorum, they have to be noticed in public meetings.
Roger that. And then how many people were you thinking in your work group, Pat, from the public?
7 would be the maximum.
Okay. And what sort of, you said that in 2 months you wanted to have some plan done?
The idea, general thinking at this point, is we would meet twice a month online, and we would set specific goals, assignments, and so forth to where in 3 months we would have a minimum of 3 alternatives to present.
Right. Now, as far as what GCSD's role could ultimately be for this, one would be influence with the landowner, or are we talking actually leasing or getting some sort of land use? Was that on the table? Or are we just using our influence for the landowners?
That's to be determined. The leasing is certainly one option. It's not maybe ideal, but it's one option. And if the district is requiring a lease, that takes time to negotiate. But, you know, we're talking about alternatives here, and we just need to refine it, and we can work out those details later.
Right. I mean, this is all fresh in our memory. We just went down this path with finding the location. We looked at the Sonora Strip for the pump track. We looked at Murata East for the pump track. In the Quarry Park Master Plan meetings, we heard all the opposition to the Quarry Park East or the Murata East, you know, why, you know, the local neighbors there didn't want it. Do you anticipate anything in the Sonora Strip from the surrounding neighborhood that could be potentially make this a dead deal?
Well, we all live here. You know, people are going to oppose it.
Yeah, that's true.
People oppose everything. And so I think, you know, we'll take a careful, guarded approach. And, you know, we certainly can't force anything down anybody's throat. But the key thing here is that once we have alternatives, once there's a viable land place to put it, a potentially viable place to put it, then we would have to reach out to neighbors, of course.
That's what can I jump in here for a sec?
Certainly.
I would think that one of your first steps might be to do exactly that. Reach out to the community and find out what the real community interest is in having it. I don't really know anything about disc golf. It sounds like a very relaxed, enjoyable pastime. But as far as I hear, I was just on a block party with my neighbors asking about it. And nobody had any idea or had ever participated or had any idea about disc golf. So I'm sure there's a passionate community out there, but I want to know if they're here, if we're going to spend money promoting that activity for just a few people. I'd like to know that too, you know?
I can speak to some of that. I'll get to you. At the last board meeting and at the MCC meeting, it's been the same cast of characters that have been promoting this. A lot of them are PE teachers in the schools locally, and they actually do this with their students. It is a burgeoning sport. It's you know, there's some stats behind it that suggest it's one of the fastest growing sports, according to its advocates, of course. Yeah, my wife on the comical side, she said, that sounds kind of mean for dogs. You know, they don't get to catch the Frisbee. She had never heard of it either. I had to explain it to her, but, you know, I've known people that have played it for quite some time, and it's very low impact on the surrounding. And I've actually stumbled into the disc golf course in San Francisco and didn't know I was in the disc golf course. It just was a green. And I was like, what is this metal thing here?
Yeah, exactly. That's my biggest opposition is the appearance of those.
Right. And they're not intrusive, and you wouldn't even know you're in a disc golf course unless someone was throwing a disc. So it's very little outlay of cash. And yeah, I think surveying the locals, if we go back to the Quarry Park Master Plan, it was in the top 5.
We have surveyed the community, and there is a pretty strong source out there in multiple surveys.
Yeah.
So there is a contingency for sure.
Yeah. It was the 4th most highly rated recreation amenity at the Quarry Park Public Master Plan public hearing.
Yeah.
I think it beat out bocce ball. And
what about pickleball? I'm curious.
Pickleball in these meetings is always the top billing. So.
But pickleball wasn't a topic for Quarry Park.
Right, for Quarry Park, no.
But bocce made it in.
Bocce did make it in, and it was above bocce. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Pat, you had something?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, there's a strong contingent locally, and it's been shown through surveys and the master plan. So I would hope that we could have, if you're okay with this, Rick, a couple, at least 2 volunteers from the PAC tonight to be willing to be in this disc golf subcommittee, meet online twice a month, time and place to be determined, with the goal of really creating something meaningful and tangible. Michelle, raise your hand.
I second that, yeah. Michelle wants to be on the committee? Lyle, you want to learn more?
No, but I'd like the minutes of those committee meetings to be distributed. Michelle, you want to use your other personality and we can be the second member too. Anybody?
I wanted to say something.
Yes, Pat. Yeah, Fran.
Well, in case for those that didn't hear or watch the GCSD meeting, as they said, it was going to require 5 acres for the small one. And the promoters were talking about, they travel, it's so addictive that they travel to Monterey and to Sacramento to go play. And that made me think, well, then those people are going to be coming here. And once again, it's a big group. And, you know, it's going to require a lot of parking. And unless we keep it that it's just for the community and it's not advertised as something all over. And if you want, you know, the pump track thing, we originally, and I was on that committee to find a place, and we picked thought that the school area was property was the best place for it to spread things around so that not everything was in Quarry Park. And everybody agreed with that. People wanted things north so that, you know, not everybody has to come down here all the time. But what happened was that somebody called the administrator who was on her way out, I think, and she said no, and that dropped. If you'd have done with the school board, which I was trying to line up a group to present it before the school board and put on a big presentation there, they're probably going to go for it. If you'd have done that like you did for the Mid-Coast Council with the pump track, I think we could have gotten that area for the pump track, but you know, it was killed.
We would not have, we would never gotten a place for the pump track because
this isn't productive.
Hold on, one at a time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Michelle?
Well, I'm just saying, had we presented it to the school board, they may have gone for it.
It's not correct.
But anyway, so just consider that it's going to take a lot. And I mean, if you can get the school board to agree with that over there for the disc golf, that probably is a good place for it. Because originally when it was presented to play, and they were going to hang the, I think, this was years ago, hang the baskets on the trees, and you'd throw the discs into the trees.
Okay, thanks, Fran. Does anybody else want to be on this committee?
I will. I'll volunteer to work with Michelle, but Michelle and I would have to, you know, adjust the evening meeting schedule. We can meet during the day, right, Michelle? If we did that.
I believe Pat.
What's that?
Yeah, whoever we'll send out an email finding out when is the best time for everybody to meet. So that's to be determined.
Okay, yeah, I'll volunteer to be on the subcommittee, and I promise to be enthusiastic.
Keep an open mind.
Actually, I think Lyle, that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's Michelle.
Multiplicity.
Okay.
Yeah, right on, Lyle. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I'll do
gonna
it.
learn a lot.
Awesome.
Anyways, okay. Action item, where'd it go? Is that it for the disc golf? It's unfortunate the public couldn't make it for their comments. Discussion, action item or agenda item 9, discussion for potential music event at Burnham Park. Michelle, you've been beating this drum for quite some time. What you got for us?
Okay, I'm going to turn my video off because I keep getting unstable connections. So hopefully I'll get through the conversation.
Okay.
Joe Justino, who's on the call right now, he is going to help us with getting PG&E on the Burnham Strip. And I met with Nancy today. Joe and I met on the Strip last week. And I just went through installing commercial electric for a raw property myself. So I've just been through the process, and it's not as difficult. PG&E takes care of most of everything, and then they charge you back. Now you can have a contractor do the work for probably less, but we're getting into the minutia here. The main thing is that Nancy was concerned that we were going to be charging all of this, like the cost of music. And what Joe, Nancy, and I have sort of discovered is that Kikuchi and Associates, who are the designers of the park, the first thing that you do in construction when you do construction is you put up a temporary pole. And so that's what Joe and I want to do. We want to put up a temporary pole. So I'm going to be quiet right now, and I'm going to let Joe give you the update. Now, Joe, he used to work for Coastside County Water District as the engineer there. And he has public agency background. He knows Delia. He knows the difference between staff and the board, et cetera. And so he has, and Delia have initiated something with PG, and I'll let you take it from here, Joe.
Hey, Michelle, before we get started with Joe, sorry to interrupt Joe. Michelle, can you give us a short summary of what sort of event that you're talking about here for people that are unaware of what you're talking about?
Sure. So, yeah, thanks very much, Rick. So we want to put live music on the Strip, and we were talking about a generator originally, and that costs money, and then you're storing fuel, and it's just not where we wanted to go. And so we started talking about electricity, and to the point of making sure that we have enough staff time to get some of these things started. I mean, it was a couple of phone calls and a couple of emails, but it had to come from Delia. It couldn't come from Joe because he's not an employee. So over the holidays, Delia and Joe, they met, they had lunch, and they got things sorted out and realized there wasn't really that much to do. And Joe, who used to run parades in Benicia, so he's got an event background. He's also lead singer for the Wall of Blues. And so he's also, got the whole band, background as well. And so I think that we'll be able to get the PG&E temporary pole in. It'll cost us something, but it's going to cost you the same amount to put that temporary pole in now versus later. So we just want to make sure that, and the temporary pole doesn't have a lot of choices as to where it goes. It's just the source of the feed. And then when you want to deliver it, because we're going to be building a bandstand, and you want to deliver it to go to the bathroom for the lights in the bathroom, that will be trenched separately. That'll be a different part of the project. So putting in a temporary pole with some PG&E, some electric, will allow us to run a band without a generator, so there will be less noise, less pollution, and no storage and stuff like that.
And what sort of time frame of when do you think this music event would be?
It'll be during the day, so probably from 3 to 6. I just heard, hot off the press, thank you, Nancy, that there's going to be a cider truck that's going to be on the vacant lot that the harbor bought and was going to build on. Not going to build on, but now we're going to have a cider truck there. So yay! And it's just down.
Oh, I lost you.
Cut out.
Yeah, your audio cut out, Michelle. I was hoping to get a time frame of when, what season, but your audio is dead.
Away from residences out towards the ocean. We will have a stage, and we'll have a little flat dance floor like the Legion. We're kind of modeling it after the Legion.
I'm unfamiliar with the Legion, but I assume it's just a raised platform.
It's about maybe a half an inch away from the ground. It's very 1970s. You have to go check it out. It's right next door to the old Princeton Landing.
Michelle, I think your voice keeps cutting out, but I think to Rick's question, you were looking for summertime.
Summertime. Thank you. That's what I was getting at. So she's cutting out. So let's go to Joe now.
Joe, do you want to give us an update on the PG&E part?
Yeah, I talked to the representative at PG&E, and they'll work with us pretty well, pretty easily. We have to get a contractor to put in a power pole, and I kind of looked at, there's some standards that are available, and once we get it installed, the PG&E will connect the power, and I think they want $1,200 for that. But before we could get the pole in, we got to deal with the county, because they're not going to you're not allowed to put anything in the ground without CDP or a CD coastal development exemption permit, which they think we could possibly get. And I'm waiting to talk with the county, with a representative from county planning. I was hoping to get this done today, but you know how things go. So I'll probably be talking to her the next few days, and talking to some contractors about actually installing it. I'll talk to a few to see if I can get some kind of a lower bid. So that's about where we're at. And this is just like I say for the power. As far as staging and the dance floor, Michelle was talking about possibly a flatbed trailer, because you don't want to build anything right now, because then you'll definitely need a CDP. But that's what the design people should be working on, and I don't know if they submitted anything yet for this development, but that's definitely in our future, and it's going to take a while for a CDP. It always does. So is that clear as mud?
Just to remind everybody, the park plan has a good-sized plaza right at the base of Portola, which we envisioned in future to be the place, you know, where we have a band or a music or any sort of performance. So it will be there in the permanent part of the park.
Yes. So yeah, like I said, I'm talking with them contractors, I'm talking with the county, and I would like to just touch bases with the designer to see what they have in mind and where they're at in their planning.
The designer of what?
This park. You have an engineering firm designing this thing?
I believe the park is separate than this music event, correct?
This is kind of like my understanding is this is kind of like a pre-park. Go on, Michelle.
Kikuchi is the architect of record. So they are the ones who are designing the park. They're going to design the electrical plan. And the first thing that they're going to do when they start construction is put in a temporary pole.
Yeah, we just want to make it kind of like make that transition a little bit smoother between the temporary and then, you know, help have it incorporated into the regular design of where they're going to put their energy source, et cetera.
Michelle,
Okay.
Can you coordinate through Barbara, since she's the main contact with Kikuchi and Kenkel? As Tom Conroy at Kikuchi is the main person, but just for an introduction.
Okay.
Fran, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to know, is it a temporary pole? Because, you know, PG&E has promised to start undergrounding. So couldn't we get it underground and be permanent for the future of the park?
Not for this part.
Yeah, we could, but you would need a CDP for that, and that's going to take too long.
Yeah, we're not doing that. We're doing CDX. We just want to, you know, have some live music, not make a big deal of it. It's going to be the floor can be moved. It's all mobile. The stage can be moved. It's all mobile, and we don't want to, you know, put any infrastructure in that we're going to have to take out. We don't want to spend any more money than we have. So it's just, you know, it's a temporary pole and a plug, basically. You know.
And I think ultimately the park's permanent power would be underground.
Correct.
Good.
More
I know
than
Director
likely.
Guy would like to have all of the poles along the front of the strip put underground.
Yeah, more than
Yeah.
likely.
The whole front of the town should be underground.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that.
Sure enough.
Okay. And does anybody else have any questions or comments regarding this music festival
Kyle?
or? Yeah, Michelle.
Make a motion?
Make a motion for what?
I don't know. I mean, is it okay with Joe going on for PG&E? I mean, or is it
That's
just
a
information
that's a
on Nancy?
Delia GCSD board question. That's
Nancy, is this informational or do you need a motion or something?
I don't think we need a motion because I think we've talked about this, probably the last time was last summer at the board, and the direction was put together the whole plan with the whole picture with the total price tag, and then the board knows what it's talking about and can comment on. So, we won't do anything until we see the full event plan, including the cost for the electrical. So, my direction was keep developing and getting information so that we can see the fulsome plan.
Right. Yeah. This is step one.
Just said we're going to keep developing and gaining information so that the GCSD board can make a cogent decision on things. So I make that motion that Joe has permission to go investigate. Do I have a second? Pat, got a second.
there you go.
Thank you.
So actually, I think it's really to make sure that PAC supports continuing to explore.
Yes.
Yeah. Make a motion for continue explore and develop the event plan.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics yet to come up with,
Is there
et cetera.
Is there a work group, or is this just Michelle? You're leading this effort, or is
Yeah, it'll be me, Joe, and Barbara.
you, Joe, and Barbara? Okay.
If anybody else on the PAC wants to help, I know Lyle, technically, I think you were part of my music plan way back at the very beginning when you joined the board. But I know with COVID and restaurants, a little hard to add everything in. So, but you're certainly welcome to be back on the music board. Anybody else wants to join? Ethan, anybody?
So did we have a motion and we seconded it?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to vote on that? In supporting development of this music event plan? Pat? Or do we support this? Yep. Raise your hand, say aye.
Bye.
All right. We have unanimous support.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Welcome.
All right. Action item 10, Planning 2020 Summer Recreation Programs Brochure. Yeah. So.
Lots of enthusiasm.
No, it was just very traumatic. Last year with all the COVID and stuff, it was just very hard to try to plan anything, and everything kind of got yanked back and forth with us trying to plan these things. So.
Yep.
What do we have on the recreation program brochure, or even the recreation program outline for this summer? Nancy, do you know anything about this?
Pat, you're muted. I know he was talking.
Yeah, it's to be determined what the activities are, what the brochure would look like, all that kind of thing. My thinking here is that some of your ideas were in that survey, but I would hope that the PAC could send, I guess it's me, some ideas, or Rick, ideas for summer recreation programs that could be done, knowing that, as Nancy and Barbara have said many times, we don't have any facilities. So it has to be outdoor recreation without permanent facilities. But we had a very successful family movie night. I agree with one of the comments that we shouldn't do it in the summer. It's too late, but we can do it in maybe spring, maybe fall. So
Maybe, perhaps we can rehash some of our favorite hits that have been successful in the past. I know the first aid class was successful moderately, and I know the history walks were moderately successful. There's no, there has been proven things that worked. that maybe we could do variations of. The adaptive cycling program, Pat, did that ever take off? Was there any success with that?
That I contacted Borp, and we just ran out of a good weather window in fall.
Roger that. Okay. And with
the movie was great in late September, in September when you could start earlier. And so I definitely would support doing that again. For the walks, Barbara and I volunteer to do more history walks. We had 30 people come to the one that we did, which was the most we split it in two and did 2 walks simultaneously. But also Director Clark, Matthew Clark is an archaeologist, has volunteered to put together a walk on the archaeology and the native peoples of the area. And pre-pandemic, we had the public information officer from the Harbor District, from the Harbor, who volunteered to do the history of the Harbor and a walk down there. So I'll send the list to you guys, but I think, those are our 4 walks we could do. Barbara and Michelle also did a nature walk in Quarry Park that they had 6 or 8 people come to. So
right, I was wondering, do we have any tie-ins with any of the birders locally? I know there's a very active birder community that do events and they do bird counts and that sort of nature. Is there any sort of tie-in or support we can incorporate with them?
Well, Director Dye is part of the Audubon's Christmas bird count, but we did actually. She has a local expert, and we did a bird walk that probably had 10 or 15 people with it. So thank you for the reminder. We'll keep that on the list as well.
Excellent. I know there were in the past when we had the indoor locations, we had the crocheting classes and some of those other classes. Were those well received, or were those?
They had
moderate.
2 to 4 people. They were fairly expensive.
Okay.
Because I think it was 4 2-hour sessions for $80. So they were kind of, and that's without us taking a cut. That was just the teacher's cost. So.
Okay.
Well, we had also a senior Zumba, I believe it was a Zumba class, stretching Rosen movement. Didn't do very well.
Yeah, we tried dog training, didn't get anything there. We had the hike in Spanish, no locals, even though Pat did a lot of promotion, Pat and Claudia.
Okay.
So really the walks, the movie, the first aid.
And Fran, didn't you do a trash pickup or something in Quarry Park that went quite well?
Yeah. Boy, does it need it now.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't know that I want to do it again.
Yeah.
If others want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle did organize trash pickups on the Burnham Strip. I once did them on the median. I did twice on the medians, and each time I only had one person join me. So I met a nice person and had a nice chat.
All right. So those are some of the good ideas that we've had for our summer calendars. And yeah, if you do have any ideas, feel free to send them. All right, move on to agenda item 10. Next PAC meeting is April 25th, 2020. I don't have any feedback on that. I'm looking at what day that is.
Monday.
You're faster than me. All right.
Can we meet in 2022 though?
No, we're gonna do some time travel. What did I say? 20? What year did I say?
2020?
I don't even know.
We don't want to go back there, do we?
Irrelevant. Yeah, okay, 2022 it is then. We'll see you then. Right. Anything else? Anybody? Ethan, what do you think so far?
Went well.
Yeah?
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, bang up job. Yeah.
Rick,
like
I'll write up the minutes and I'll have them ready before the next meeting.
Thank you, Dale. Pat, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
No, it's a great group of people to work with. Let's just get one or two things done.
Right, I agree. Let's get something done. All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Move.
No motion needed.
Yeah.
Well, I motion this way. Au revoir.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Night.
Thanks all. Have a good night.
Bonne nuit.
Who turns it off?